I am the Commissar, that's my name. Forged alliance forever, that's the game. Which of these players have a claim to fame? We're gonna find out here, and today, here is Red Rocks. Now, Red Rocks is a 1 versus 1 map, so these players have nobody else to shame, nobody else to blame. It's all down to them. So, in this mighty 1 versus 1 fight to the death, who's facing off? In the blue corner, here in the north, this is Trandan. He is 2066 rated, he is UEF. And his opponent, down here in the south in the red corner, this is Alt F4 Ubervator. He is 1842 rated, and he is Seraphim. Now he's opened first air, and on this map, that's not such a bad idea. This outcrop in the corner and its mirror up in the north, those are only accessible by air or edge build. Same is true of this plateau at the back of his base, so he might be going for some early drops here. As for the rest of the map, one thing you'll notice is it's pretty short of mass points as 10x10s go, so this is going to be quite a low mass map for the players. There is a reasonable amount of reclaim in the centre, especially here and here and here, and also a reasonable amount on the outcrops, but not so much as to make an immense difference early on. Now, Ubervator, we can see all his early engineers are doing building and reclaiming stuff around the base. Trandan, however, has sent his early engineer out across the pond, across the river, to set up a factory immediately on the central island. So if he can get engineers off and into this area early, he'll have a nice mass lead. Now we see an engineer coming out across the water for Ubervator, but that hasn't got any building planned, only reclaiming apart from a couple of mexes. Same story for this engineer, and same story for the comm. No buildings apart from mexes, just reclaim. So that's very greedy. And here we have an early bomber coming out from Ubervator. Now, this factory has only just started, so if that bomber can see and pick up that engineer, that'll be pretty good. At the moment it's only heading for the middle, but I reckon that this scout will see that engineer, and if it does, Trandan's early gambit may not pay off. Whereas Ubervator, who's going to have more build power in the middle, might be successful. He sees the bomber coming, he dodges, but a sneaky hover bomb from Ubervator and that engineer goes down, so Trandan's expansion to the middle has immediately been very limited. And the bomber heads for Trandan's main base. He gets the bomb away. It does kill an NG, but the bomber was shot down by an Inti from Trandan. Trandan already has the transport out. He's presumably going to try for a drop somewhere as he picks up a bunch of engineers. Where are those fellows going? Are they all just going to the back? Two are. Scout lands there and accidentally gets RT'd. So this transport just flew out and flew back doing nothing. Not sure what that was about. Meanwhile, the remaining engineers from Trandan are being sent off to the northern outcrop. This is no NG drop though. This transport is being filled with Zuis. So maybe we're going to get some early aggression. Perhaps here is a common place to drop, where it takes quite some time for the NGs to come and rebuild. Or he might be going to try and counter drop this outcrop. But have those ASFs who wishes. Have those inties seen it? Maybe not, or if they have, then they've been distracted by those inties from Ubi. So Ubervator's got a drop. Looks like he's coming out here, but his scout knows there's nothing to fight there. So maybe he'll redirect. And indeed he does. Over here, this poor little expanding NG is picked off by one of Trandan's bombers, and Trandan's got another bomber down here. We've got a drop coming out from Trandan, which he immediately pulls back. I think maybe he thinks there's NGs and he's going to get into a reclaim war. But it's not NGs, it's Zuis, and they open fire right away. And they're focusing fire on the power, not the mass. They're trying to give a few power problems to Trandan. Meanwhile, this naval yard has gone up, but the NG's been killed by that pesky little bomber, and Trandan is dropping down here with his NGs after all. Ubervator continues to focus the power. Now, he is causing Trandan some problems. Trandan is in negative power in terms of net gain right now, but he is holding on, and with these builds here, plus the hydro up here, he's quickly going to be fine again. Meanwhile, this drop has landed down here, and while the transport gets shot down, I don't think Ubervator is going to be able to deny that factory. This bomber still just pootling around causing problems. That would be a lovely bomb if he could drop there. But he's more interested in heading on. And it gets shot down, but Trandan's interceptors come to play, and there's actually quite a big air battle for such an early stage in the game going on over here. Distracting nicely from Ubervator's bombers heading out to try and take care of this island. Another bomber just pootling around from Trandan. Kills off a tank, but hasn't got much done yet. And this poor bomber is caught out on the ground. Up here in the north, Ubervator is attacking the north outcrop from the sea, where he's got frigates coming out of this factory. Trandan has more factories and many more planned, but he hasn't actually got any naval units out yet. Ubervator's got up a second factory, and he's got a bunch of engineers around it, but he isn't assisting it yet. Maybe he doesn't think he has the mass. He continues to harass the south outcrop from the air, but still, the outcrops are both in the hands of Trandan. And Trandan's actually captured this mechs with this engineer. He just brought that round and sneakily grabbed it. This one he's going to have to rebuild, but even so, that's a decent amount of eco for Trandan. And look at that lead. 29 for Ubervator, 41 for Trandan. He's only 1,000 mass ahead though. He's collected more reclaims, so this eco lead must be quite recent. He still hasn't got a T2 mechs, but then doesn't look like Ubervator has either. And this raid is doing quite good work for Ubervator. And he's got T2 air, which is pretty nice. We haven't even started T2 air for Trandan, so this could be a nasty surprise if there's a nothel or two heading his way. lots of air landing in the middle. It feels like Obervator just doesn't have quite enough on the ground at the moment. There are 5 factories of production for Trandan, with 2 more going up. Obervator also has 5, but as yet no more planned. However, these raids are nice. They're taking out mexes over here, and he's still getting damage done from the sea onto both outcrops. However, that line of naval factories is spitting out these fellows. They're definitely going to win that naval fight, and they may even threaten the naval yard. So that's something Obervator will have to watch out for. But right now, Obervator might be more interested in this Nother he's just popped out. What's he planning to do with it? And he's also now brought a frigate round here to harass Trandan's starting island. Perhaps he'll be able to get this Mex. He's just building up Northers at the moment. And meanwhile, it looks like he's picking up some tanks for something here. What's he going to do with those? Only a couple. And quite a large drop of engineers coming here, so it looks like we've got something big planned. The Nothers, meanwhile, head across. Is this going to be a... no, where's this? So this transport here, with its armed forces, is heading out to try and capture this island, while the Nothers are causing some damage to Trandan himself. They decide against another pass, though, and they head up to harass Trandan's actual base. They split fire and get a lot of damage done on power and a bit of mass as well, but they lose 1 to this AA in the pass. Meanwhile, this drop has taken out Amex and is spreading quite well. There might be enough there to hold on to this if they can focus that factory down, and with the help of these frigates, that doesn't look like a bad ask. However, the engineers have all been dropped up here, and they just die instantly. Those poor engineers just thrown away for nothing. And they all had such happy home lives to come back to, etc., etc. Meanwhile, though, Trandan's frigates, having taken out these mexes, are now harassing Ubi's central naval yard. The Nother comes out to deal damage on them. Over here, these Nothers have only just died. That was the last one there. They've done a reasonable amount of damage to the power.
Commander,
it hasn't crippled Trandan, though. The comms are trading blows. Trandan's on slightly less health, but they're both close to the water, so I don't see any threat. And there are now torp bombers coming out from Obervator, which, in combination with the Nothers and submarines, should be able to save his last naval yard. Even from this wave of 5 frigates heading down from the north. However, these tanks did do their job, and so now a drop of engineers is heading out from Obervator to lay claim to the southern outcrop. The torp bombers doing an adequate job of defence, and those frigates pull away a bit, but Obervator still hasn't really gone back into the sea yet, and that may prove costly for him. Only 3 of these factories at the end went down for Trandan. He doesn't need any more. He knows he's got more naval production than Ulbavator, and he's got back into mass balance, but it's taken him a while. So he is ahead on mass, 32 to 25, so 31 to 25, so that is a 6 mass lead, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're working on so little mass, every little helps. That may be about to change though, as a look at this. Those mexes going up quickly in the southern outcrop for Ulbavator, and he's taken out that mex again with a frigate. But what is this? Everybody can play at the drop game today. Oh, but an interceptor has locked onto it. Will it survive? It's just bravely heading for... And the interceptor breaks off. It must have been on a patrol and just happened to pass it. And it's dropping on the plateau at the back, which is entirely undefended and has no way to produce land units. So that could be brutal. One mech's immediately down and the nearby engineer soon follows. Meanwhile, this one frigate has snuck its way up here and taken out another mechs of Trandans. So it's a bit closer now, 30 to 35, but these Lobos may have something to say about it. And Trandan is already building back up again here, whereas Ulbavator hasn't had the chance to expand here yet. Looks like he's attempting to repay this little courtesy in kind. He's got a drop planned up here on the northern plateau to take his revenge. He still hasn't done anything about this though. You'd think that a gunship might be on its way to clear these up or something, but he hasn't. Maybe he's focused more on here, and he does get a mex. His comm going into battle there. And he's also dropping a much bigger load from a T2 transport over here. So that is quite an amount of droppery going on, but not to be outdone. Here is a drop from Trandan, which has landed yet more forces onto Ulbavator's main island, main coastline, I guess. These are getting damage done though, and I think that there's a number of T2 mexes that could be for the chop here. However, there are gunships working on clearing this up. Nonetheless, there is 2 T2 mexes down and at least 2 other mexes. Finally, a gunship is sent out to reclaim this area, and the T2 PD is just going to clear up these fellas. So, for the first time in a while, Ulbavator is ahead in eco, 46 to 23. He's got nearly double Trandan's eco, and he's pushed in hard with his comm here, but the comm is now under gunship pressure and will be forced to retreat to the water. At least you think so. This feels like cutting it quite fine as Ulbavator goes down into the red, but he's under the water and safe from those gunships. Trandan has built up quite the air force in all this time, and oh, do you see what I see? I see another drop, but it's scouted, and Trandan's air force is big enough to just wipe that out. Meanwhile, these tanks are still alive somehow. They're not within range of anything and could be moved in to deal with some of this. This one Zui with 4 ranks of veterancy is poking away at this air factory. In comes the next drop from Ulbavator. He's trying to distract, but it's not gonna work. All that wave of interceptors smack down the transport, which leaves a nice 700 mass right there in Trandan's base. And Ulbrivator now has a problem and a half. He has torpedo bombers above him, he has gunships above him, so neither the water nor the land is safe. He's deep into the red. Could we be about to see the death of Ulbrivator's 700 hit points? He comes out 300 hit points. And there are still torp bombers. Ulbrivator's been getting as much anti-air in the area as he can, and he crucially repairs a bit, getting a rank of veterancy as he pops out of the water, and that saves his life. Oh, that was close. Meanwhile, Ulbrivator's been raiding well and has actually just sealed down quite a bit of the mexes available in the main island. In the southern outcrop, though, these gunships are more than able to deal with these engineers before they can get any anti-air turrets up, and they quickly smash down the mexes that Ulbrivator had. So while Ulbrivator is still a tiny bit of eco in the lead, I don't think that's going to last. Gunship on gunship action, but the gunships for Ulbrivator are quickly wiped out by the interceptors for Trandan. And now, what do we have? We have submarine pressure on the naval factories for Trandan, and he's only got surface boats at the moment, but these torp bombers will take down the submarines, and Ulbrivator just doesn't have the air force to stop them. But he continues raiding around here, and he is on his way to T2 Navy, but so is Trandan. And Trandan's got these other factories to support, and Ulbrivator simply doesn't. Those torpedo bombers finish off the submarines, which have achieved no real damage in here. Ulbrivator seems to be trying to set up a bit of an emplacement here, and it's got a decent amount of stuff in it. Will that hold? I think that'll hold. He's confident enough to go for T2 on his comm there. Meanwhile, he has been rebuilding an air force, and he catches out some of these gunships from Trandan, but Trandan draws them back, and Ulbrivator chooses not to focus on that fight. With a good turn, he could probably get an air win here. Yeah, that looks pretty good for Ulbrivator. Both players now have their naval yards, and looks like we're going to get... Is that a cruiser? I think that might be a cruiser. I would have gone for a destroyer first. If there is a destroyer and I just don't recognise the Seraphim boats. Don't look at me. Seraphim boats are weird in shape. So everything a bit hushed at the moment. Neither player... well, speak of the devil, I was going to say that neither player was trying to redrop that southern outcrop yet, but that looks like exactly what Trandan is planning there. Yeah, it was a cruiser. That's a destroyer. So this cruiser will help a lot against these gunships. But this is quite a lot of frigates. If you can get here before that destroyer goes up, then Ulbrivator may find himself in some trouble. So there's Trandan redropping the southern outcrop. There are torpedo bombers in defense here, but he still doesn't have that destroyer up. The cruiser comes back, but it's only got missiles, which frigates can easily dodge. It'll help against those gunships though. This feels like quite a lot of danger for Obervater. The gunships quickly die to the interceptors and the frigates, as do the cruiser, as do the torque bombs. But all the engineers assisting the naval yard die, and that's going to be troublesome for Obervater. Meanwhile, cruisers coming out from Trandan start bombarding his possessions in the centre. They're slowly being worn down by this torpedo launcher, when the destroyer comes out. It's taking quite a lot of damage from the pressure applied to the naval yard while it was under construction, but it's out and it takes out the attack force. But by now we've got 2 cruisers up for Trandan, coming round from both sides. Trandan's comm still naked, pushing in to deal with this wave of tanks. He's got a bit of spam to help out. There's a TMD here, but that won't stop concentrated cruiser barrage. The destroyer easily stops the frigates that Trandan is trickling in. Huh. Sneaky little reclaim of an enemy NG there by Trandan. And we've got engineers coming in to be dropped off here for Trandan. That's a lot of reclaim to grab. And now that he's reclaimed this area, what do the ecos look like? Well, Trandan is ahead, but only by 4... Well, I was gonna say 4 mass per tick, but that jumped up there for a second, so maybe there's some shenanigans going on. Overall though, Trandan is slowly gaining an eco lead back, and overall he's only 5,000 mass ahead. I would have expected more somehow, but Obervater hasn't been slacking off. And what do you know? We've got another drop, but it's only engineers, and Obervater isn't paying attention, and those poor old engineers are simply sucked up by Trandan. More destroyers coming out for Obervater, and he needs it now because there's a destroyer from Trandan over here. This destroyer, however, shoos back the cruiser, and with this cruiser, I reckon that Obervater should be able to clear up this lot. There's no T2 to build TMDs or anything, and these can all be shot from the sea by the destroyer. But with a lot of assistance on his naval yard, Trandan now has 2 destroyers, and Obervater just doesn't have the production to match it. That said, Trandan is heavily stalling mass, so I don't know to what extent that helps out, while Obervater is much better balanced on the mass front. While the cruiser goes for the eco, another drop comes in, seeing if it can take out the units, because that's mainly tanks, no arty in there. Cruiser's dealing with that side of things. And that doesn't feel like it's going to have any problem finishing off that outcrop. Over here, the destroyer has been doing the dirty work, no drop yet. Well, speak of the devil, he thinks that the destroyer is going to do the dirty here, and that these engineers will be enough just to take over the outcrop. And it looks like it's going to be right. However, a gunship comes out in defense to try and... Those are still on the transport. Ooh, or have they been picked? Oh, they've been picked up again. Oh, that's quite nice. And they just fly away. I like that. Don't just leave them there. Do the dirty, pick them up, take him away. Meanwhile, tanks and engineers land over here, but these engineers drop dangerously close to a PD and might just get... They do. The engineers just get blown apart by the PD that's there, and he didn't drop any arty, so he's just got tanks, but there's a PD there that can easily take them. A destroyer from Obervator pushes up here and is able to shoot at the ground. It might be able to do a bit of damage, but that is quite a lot of destroyers. That's 3 destroyers pushing around from Trandan, and there's only one here, already on only half health, to stop them, so Obervator needs to be very careful there. And yet another destroyer rolls off the line. That's also a lot of torpedo bombers, of which Obervator is going to have to be very careful. He's got a decent amount of air, but Trandan's got more. Let's compare air numbers. Trandan has 38 inties plus a further 17 out of fuel, and Obervator has only 23 plus 6 out of fuel, so Trandan's definitely got the air advantage, and he can use these torpedo bombers with impunity. And that looks like what he's going to do against this poor destroyer, which receives a volley. Doesn't take a great deal of damage, of course, it's got torpedo defense, but the second pass should clean it up. That said, Trandan isn't actually in the area with his interceptors, and so quite a lot of them, the torpedo bombers, are taken out by Trandan's interceptors for free. Eventually, a cruiser comes up to finish off the stuff on this island. Meanwhile, these fellows who had been dropped here are picked up again. But this is the real threat to Obervator now. 4 destroyers heading to the south. They can easily take out these mexes, and this cruiser should provide no threat to them. All they have to do is push in. The drop heads on a transport with only 34 hit points. That is cutting it fine. The transport drops them off. Obervator's comm getting stuck into the thick of it. Trandan's comm just sauntering around in the background. Why isn't he pushing? He could smash by just coming down here. Meanwhile, though, Trandan is re-dropping the northern outcrop. Eco's almost dead even, and for this stage of the game with that much collected, total collected almost dead even, so that's pretty impressive. And can Obervator take out Trandan's HQ? If he can, that would be great. The torp bombers aren't getting anywhere near that cruiser, but this big wave of destroyers is coming back. There are 2 here for Obervator, but 4 for Trandan, and one of the ones for Obervator dies pretty quickly, but the naval yard goes down, so now Obervator can produce T2 and Trandan cannot. Meanwhile, Trandan has lost a number of mexes to this push from Obervator. He's lost that one, and he may lose this one, depending on how well these T1 bombers get the stuff in, and he does. A bit of friendly fire there from his own cruiser. They quickly reclaim the naval yard and quickly kill up another one, which I can't imagine will do anything other than go straight for T2. But he has got 5 destroyers. And Obervator only has 2, and while he is producing them, and he actually has quite the eco lead after that, 60 to 41, so he's got half as much eco coming in again. Does he have the production? He's got 2 naval yards producing destroyers. He's got 2 destroyers out already, but there are 5 coming in, and he's outmatched in the air. Does he have enough? And on the main island, the steady production of spam from Trandan has pushed Ubervator back, and he might be forced back into the water. He has redropped the southern outcrop, so he and Trandan are 1 for 1 on the outcrops. But now his destroyers have had to advance forward and engage Trandans, and he's found that there are rather too many. His air is being taken out, so these torpedo bombers will be able to act without issue. He's focusing the naval yard. That's not the HQ though. And another 2 destroyers come out. Could they be in time to save Ubervator from this naval push? Those torpedo bombers could make the difference. 1 destroyer goes down quickly, and it's 3 to 5. The torpedo bombers come for another pass. Only 2. Only 1. The last destroyer dodges for all it's worth, but it goes down too. And suddenly, this is not looking at all good for Ubervator. Ubervator's comm forced off the main island, leaving it all to Trandan. Ubervator still has the best economy by a long way though. Is he going to be able to convert that into a last minute clutch shave? Perhaps some artillery on the main island might pay off. Would easily be able to fire back at those destroyers from out of their range. And he has managed to get himself back onto this northern outcropping and start setting himself up to try and reclaim it from Trandan. And over here, he's dropped engineers and is producing land on Trandan's starting island. He's got a shield up, he's got TMD up. And he is building artillery with which to fire back at the... Oh, but his comm's in the water and might have to get out soon. The torpedo bombers come for him, and once he gets out, he's going to be under fire from those destroyers. The destroyers pummel his comm, suddenly down to 9,000 hits. He dodges nicely, but and only absorbs a couple more blows. Can he get under the shield? Looks like he can. Trandan's comm comes to save this island, but of course you can't walk up there. He'll have to edge build, but... Oh, whichever of them notices that engineer first, but of course the main question is what's going on down here, and unfortunately for Ubervator, Trandan has broken through. His power generator is down, he's got 1 more. His shield is down, he's desperately trying to put up another. But he's losing mexes here, here, here. He's trying to rebuild, but there are riptides getting onto his starting coastline now. And this feels like too little, too late. Up here, there's a large amount of spam being produced and still more being planned. But the riptides push in, he's being forced to defend himself with T2 turrets. He's trying to rebuild up here as he looks set to lose his air HQ. His units stream in towards Trandan's main base, but there are more than enough gunships in defence to stop them. And the cruiser fire begins to rain down on him. He's got tactical missile defense, but has he got enough? The gunships continue to stop his push. He creeps forward, but he realizes, as all of these boys are taken out, that there is nothing left. The fat lady has metaphorically sung, and Ubervator surrenders. Trandan wins. My loyal viewers, what did you think of that? We had some pushy play from Ubi at the beginning, and I loved all his drops. I loved all of Trandan's drops too, back and forth. That's what made me want to cast this game. I hope you like a bit of action of the dropping nature. Did you think that Trandan was going to win? Did you think that Ubervator's drops were going to win out? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, please remember to like, subscribe, and obey. I'm TheCommissar, and I'll see you next time.